And we're live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Pro Football Pod. We're live here on YouTube. First official live YouTube episode instead of having to, upload it here. What's up, boys? Austin, Coach, how's it going, fellas?
What's going on?
Colby, can't hear you.
Where'd you go?
Pretty
bro?
excited. Starting to talk about fantasy. I was muted from when we were in before. Repping the 49ers today for the NFC West.
It does bother me that you rep a Dolphins hat with a different jersey. Like the non-matching of that. It's got me going nuts right now.
Give up my team, even though I have respect for other teams and their players.
I mean, I guess I get that.
You know, before Tom Brady was the greatest quarterback of all time, everybody knew about Joe Montana.
Montana?
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana was a quarterback, you asshole.
Oh man, I'm so pumped to talk about some of these players. Like just in getting ready, I learned so much about some of these NFC West players that I didn't have a lot of expectations of them going into it. Like we were talking about it the other day and kind of saying that there was really nobody on a lot of these teams, and it's kind of true, but there's some gems in there. I think there's some hidden stuff that you'll be able to use.
Oh, there's most definitely some valuable players there. Now, some of the teams are lacking some talent, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, that's where I was talking to Colby yesterday. I love going through this every year we do it because it ends up allowing me to see guys that I didn't really pay attention to. For example, and we'll dive into him, like Brandon Ayuk. He had a really solid season last year. Did not pay attention really much because, it's all about Debo, which Debo's who I was riding with in fantasy. So I paid more attention to what was going on there. But Brandon Ayuk had a really solid season last year. So it's little things like that you notice when you actually dive into the numbers and not necessarily the analytical stuff, but just the certain things like target share and stuff like that, just to let you know the relationships that these dudes have with their quarterbacks.
Well, now, before we get into that too deep, Austin, do you want to say something?
No, yeah, we're going to be getting deep into that one.
So, we do have some news that actually dropped this past week, so we can discuss that first. Kamara is officially not being charged with anything. I've heard rumors that he still might get 2 to 3 games because the NFL just hates for the bad press, like the fact that he was even charged for a crime.
I told y'all he wouldn't.
I mean, we don't know.
Bad
we
press
don't know
is
yet.
bad press. You can't be doing that to the Shield.
Exactly. Now, Jonathan Taylor apparently had a bunch of bone fragments in his ankle all last year and had surgery over the offseason and is at this point 100% healthy. As far as those types of injuries and he's back from the surgery, so Jonathan Taylor going into last year was supposed to be the top back. I think a lot of the expectations people have of him this year is based off of his last 2 years, and he really hasn't been healthy for the last 2, so that could be big going into the future.
Do you hear anything about Tyreek Hill?
With the crime? Yeah. That he was charged with? That was already dropped a couple of days later. The Miami police said that he wasn't even a part of it, and anything shouldn't happen from that.
Yeah, I don't expect anything to come from that. But see, you mentioned Jonathan Taylor, and we talked about Kamara, and I know y'all aren't as active on those Twitter streets as I am, but
you be walking.
Everything going on right now, with these running backs, Josh Jacobs, not signing a deal long term after the franchise
or tag. Saquon.
Tony Pollard, Saquon, they're starting to see the value is just not these teams aren't signing them for what they want. The reports were out there that the Dolphins had an offer for Dalvin, and he felt that's not good enough. Let me look elsewhere. And yeah. I mean, I really don't know how much more he's going to get from another team. It's just these after your 5 years, first 400 carries in the league, things like that, like it's just statistically you're able to see the drop off unless you're a freak of nature like Adrian Peterson. Like it's just
What's what's
after your first
unfortunate
contract, there's no sense in it.
is like Saquon is legitimately in the prime of his career. This season coming up is going to be his best season. He's not going to do better than what he's about to do, and he can't take off. He sent out a tweet today at like 4:30 after he wasn't officially able to be re-signed, saying it is what it is. And I'm glad that he tweeted something like that instead of like "fuck this, I'm not playing" or any bullshit. Like he's gonna play. He's not gonna show up for a lick of training camp, which is his right. I think that that's what he should do.
Go back and watch his college tape. That man can run the rock. It is scary.
Like I said, he's about
to.
he's about to be the shit.
Like if you think Jonathan Taylor is good at running the ball, just think about that like times 10.
Say
Healthy.
quad.
Yeah.
And
Now,
that's where injuries derail these dudes way too early and way too often. Like you
It's
just
sad.
can't depend on them for the whole season.
But
That's
Now,
the problem.
At the same time, you have DeAndre Hopkins, who's like 30 something, that just got a $32 million 2-year deal with Tennessee with incentives. So as
he
long
went and
as
got
he
the
does,
bag.
he got like it's like 26 before incentives, 32 with for 2 years. That's
He's a top
solid
10
as fuck.
receiver in the league.
He's not a top
Like
10 receiver
whenever
anymore.
he's healthy
He
and
was.
playing, like
He
you talk
was
about
the
a guy
best.
who doesn't drop the ball, like
You're right, but he doesn't have the
Goes up,
separation and the
snags
route
it.
running. Like he doesn't have like
yeah, he's
the
getting
top
older
end
and
speed
older.
anymore. Exactly.
That's what I'm
He's still
saying,
going to
so-
be a great.
He went and got that bag.
Of all the teams for him to go to, what you're saying is so accurate because there's no reason to go to Tennessee other than for the money. You went there so you could get paid, straight up.
He set up a list of what he wants in his next team.
And then got
And
none of it.
Didn't the only thing he got was the stable coaching and front office.
If they
Like
had
the
a
Titans
decent
have a
quarterback,
pretty stable front office, and Vrabel's been at the helm there for a few years. Like it's pretty set in stone. That's the guy there. So I mean, that's what he got, and he got a decent defense, but not a top 5, top 7 defense like what he was
Vrabel's
wanting.
defense has been top 5 and top 7, and they were really good last year, even though they were really young. They've got a lot of pieces that are developing. They were overpaying Bud Dupree, and now he's off of their whatever. So I think that don't count the Titans defense out. Like I don't. They're a scrappy ass fucking football team.
Their problem, and the one thing I don't understand is you chose Ryan Tannehill over the
Out of all
possibility
quarterbacks.
of almost any other quarterback in the
all of
AFC.
them.
And Malik Willis is it?
It's either Ryan Tannehill, Malik
What the
Willis,
fuck has
or
he done?
Will
Like,
Levis.
Like why would
Like
you not take Hendon Hooker?
A rookie,
Bro,
a second-year
why
guy
would you
who
not
really
take Hendon?
struggled. Like it doesn't make any sense for any of those quarterbacks that are going to start now. Tannehill, a few years ago, he's shown he's had really solid seasons with Tennessee. So
Game
I mean,
manager, dude. Like
if
he
he's
manages
able-
the fuck out of it.
exactly. But that my problem is it just it doesn't make sense. Like I've seen Tannehill. We've as Dolphins fans dealt with Tannehill for over a handful of years, and it's just he's good enough to get you there, but unless you have elite talent around him, it's not going to happen. And I mean, yeah, they went to the AFC Championship with AJ Brown a few years ago. You've got D-Hop now, but is Joe Burrow going to gift you 3 interceptions again to help you get there? Like, that's my thing.
It's kind of surprising the 49ers didn't pick up Tannehill. I mean, just a good game manager like that. And it's because they would have
You
had
don't
to
need
take
to.
over
They got
his...
Sammy D.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, Tannehill's the type of quarterback that they would be picking up.
Well, with Sam Darnold, they just were able to sign him. With Tannehill, they'd have to trade for him, and you're not trading for Ryan Tannehill at this
And
point.
taking his contract over.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, I think that we had one more piece of news on the list.
Where'd that boy Zeke going?
Joe Mixon is the other big one. The two of them. That's who we had the last two to talk about. that Joe Mixon just took a pay cut. So I originally had him to talk about how much of a question mark he was going into training camp, because I was hearing rumors that this guy that they took in like the second or third round was going to take Joe Mixon's shit, and that by the end of training camp, Joe Mixon was going to be gone, cap casualty, and completely out of there. It seems like he heard the same rumor and kind of thinks the same thing's going to happen because he just took a massive pay cut.
Team friendly extension.
To just
I think
stay on the
$9
team.
million pay cut this year that he's not going to make this year.
My thing though is a lot of that is like under the table. They probably move it to incentives. They move it into a signing
exactly.
bonus,
He's still going to get paid.
Like
It's not like the guy's going to go on food stamps, but
he's not giving away $9 million.
He wants to get a ring.
Thing. Like
he wants to get a ring.
I like that.
That too. So you boys ready to dive in here to this NFC West fantasy preview?
I'll do a back dive.
We're still making up
sound effects.
That's
are coming. Don't worry. You don't have to listen to Justin forever. First player. I'm actually so excited to talk about Geno. So excited.
So diving into the Seahawks first here.
Yeah. So Geno was 12th in the pass overall, 8th in total attempts, 1st in completion percentage of like the top 34 quarterbacks, and 4th in touchdowns. Wow. That's the only thing I could say too whenever I was putting these stats together. The 12th in passing I kind of expected. I expected him to just barely be around the top 10 in all the others. To be 1st and 4th in completion and touchdown, it shows like the growth the player had. What do you guys think he's going to be capable of this year, though? Are you still taking him as like a top 4, top 5 quarterback?
Definitely not. I'm scared with like not seeing enough tape on him. Like he hasn't done this for 5 years now. It was just 1 year. Like people, the other teams haven't had enough tape on this guy to really like analyze him. He played for the Jets. Like he didn't do much
sat on
there.
The bench.
And that's what I'm saying. So like he didn't do much in the NFL until last year. And so it's kind of like a backup coming in to play for a starting
almost like
quarterback.
a second rookie season.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom. I'm so glad you guys put it that way.
He's developed a little bit more mentally because he's been in the league longer.
Exactly. So it's not the same as a sophomore slump, but that's exactly what I expect this year. Obviously, he's not a sophomore, but this is going to be his second year as the starter, second year in the limelight. Everyone just got 17 games of tape on Geno Smith. What does he like to do? What does he not like to do? And I think that now we're going to see them able to adjust to that.
Now, what's interesting with him is he does have some shiny new toys to play with, like some serious weapons over there in Seattle on the defensive side and offensive side to help him out. So, like, it's like a kid in a candy shop, He's just having fun over there.
And we're going to get
into a great
his
coach
toys
to work for, too.
In a minute. So we'll talk about Tyler Lockett and DK and exactly how good they are. I have Geno barely in the top 15 of quarterbacks for fantasy because I think it's going to be really hard for him to do better than like Lamar, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. Like these guys are elite at the position. They've got so many pieces around them, and Geno did so well last year because the Seahawks did so well. I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain that trajectory.
I expect a little drop off from Geno, but I would be shocked if all of a sudden it was just like a shot in the frying pan just one season and he's back to shit in the bed everywhere. Like, I think he's still going to have a solid season. Like, fantasy-wise, I think you're still looking at a top 12 type season from him. I don't expect too much to drop off from the completion percentage. A quarterback just doesn't become inaccurate all of a sudden. So, I mean, with accuracy, the yards are going to come, the touchdowns are going to come. You look at the 3-1 touchdown interception differential, like it's things like that to where he's not turning the ball over as much as he's putting it in the end zone. And, he's got some scramble ability to where if it's there, he's able to get you the easy first and stuff like that. And, you mentioned new toys, the Jackson Smith and Jigba and Zach Charbonnet coming in. Charbonnet's more going to help out Kenneth Walker III as far as, taking the load off of him so much, having a little thunder and lightning there in the backfield. But Jackson Smith and Jigba giving him that young guy to come in and start to be ready to take the place of Tyler Lockett, who's, getting a little up there, getting a little long in the tooth for the NFL. So you
I don't know, man.
expect
Who
him to
does what
be
that guy
out in
does,
about
though?
three
Thank
three
you.
to four seasons. 3 to 4 seasons, Tyler Lockett. So you figure when Jackson Smith's ready to fully take the reins, it's just a, seamless transition. So I love the weapons that they have there in Seattle. I was completely wrong on them last year. I said sell on everybody, not going to happen. Gino's
Well,
going to be terrible. DK's not going to get his. Lockett's not going to get his.
It was the Russ. We thought that Russell Wilson made Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf who they were. And I don't want to say that Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf made Russell Wilson yet. But if Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton can't help the boy out, then it looks like they were the ones that made him who he was. At this point, again, Tyler Lockett, I don't want to hear that he's going to take a step down. I can't believe it yet.
No, I'll never bet against Tyler Lockett in fantasy.
Ever.
He's a perfect 4th to 5th round draft pick in fantasy every season
year.
because he's always going to fall because there's always bigger names, and he's the number 2 wide receiver for the team, and
he
still
doesn't get
got
touchdowns.
117 targets, 84 receptions, 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He had more touchdowns than DK last year. He played one less game than DK.
He just finds the back of the end zone so much more.
So before we go too far, total in as receivers, ranked as receivers by PFF, Tyler Lockett was 25th. He was 15th in receptions, 20th in yards, and 7th in touchdowns. Last year was a bit of an outlier for Tyler Lockett because he had a fuck ton of touchdowns, and that's normally his weakness. He normally gets a ton of yards and a bunch of receptions, but he's not a big touchdown guy. So I think that if the hard part is that if he can get better at receiving and yards, then he's going to have a great season. But if he regresses, 15th and 20th isn't that good. Like, the only reason he had value last year is because of how many touchdowns he had.
Well, that, and if anybody's going to cut into somebody's statistics, it'll be
Jigba.
Jackson Smith cutting into Lockett.
He's the same player.
It's not
he's
going
the
to cut
younger,
into
better
DK.
player.
Yeah, exactly. And
You're gonna have
that's why I
3.
said, like, it's going to be, come on, young blood, follow me real quick. I'll show you the reins here, and then a couple seasons, you can take it over.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Because, Lockett's got off the field, things he's looking into. He's got a real estate company already, the official real estate company of the Seattle Seahawks, the first NFL player to ever sponsor his own NFL team. That's insane. Yeah, it's awesome. I love Lockett. So, like you said, I'll never bet against him. If he falls to me, I'll always take him.
Now, I think that his ADP right now is probably going to be around the 5th or 6th round. I think that because of if you see where Gino goes in your draft, I think it'll give a good representation of where Lockett and DK are going to go. If Gino goes super early, then someone's going to be trying to snag one of those guys to link up with him. But I think that I would be trying to wait for Lockett, maybe 7th, 8th round, even 9th as your 3rd or 4th receiver. That'd be a great place for him.
That would. I mean, that age scares me whenever drafting a player like that, but he's definitely one of those players that you can rely on. There's not many.
And on the same way with Gino, even though I have him at maybe 15th, I think that if a bunch of quarterbacks go and you're able to get him as one of your last round guys, I think he's going to be a phenomenal sleeper at the quarterback position because people are going to undervalue in the same way that I am. It's just about taking him at the right amount of value.
So before we move on, we mentioned, Jackson Smith cutting into Lockett. Kenneth Walker last year in 15 games had 1,000 yards, averaged 4.6 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns, 35 receptions for about 11 yards, per game receiving, no touchdowns receiving, few breakaway, plays there. But So how much do you see Zach Charbonnet cutting into what basically was a full season for Kenneth Walker?
So Kenneth
I think
Walker,
he's still number one.
yeah, we didn't expect him to be the number one last year, and it wasn't until halfway through training camp when we knew that this guy was gonna take everyone's shit. I think that it's going to be a similar thing. If Charbonnet can learn the system and get up to speed, then he'll be able to have success in their offense right away. But that's a big if.
See, I
Running
think
back,
Charbonnet cuts into, if anything, his red zone opportunities.
I like that.
Because he's just the bigger, more powerful back.
Exactly.
Like Kenneth Walker's smaller, he's compact. Like he'll pack a punch and lay you out. But I mean, if you're having to choose between the two that needs to fight through the line, I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet, and I think that's eventually, maybe not necessarily the first quarter of the season, but I think around the halfway point, that's what you start seeing is inside the 20s. That's when Charbonnet comes in and he's looking to pound it up the middle there.
I don't know
Now,
if you
Kenneth
guys have
Walker-
noticed, but the whole league's changing to like there is not really any more like number one backs. Like
You'll
it's
have like
two
your
backs,
Christian
three backs
McCaffrey.
that
Like
rotate.
there's a couple. I feel like
That's
there's
what I'm
like
saying,
five
like-
running backs that are like the number one
Nick Chubb,
every down back.
Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor, C-Mac, and Derrick Henry, and then it gets dicey. Saquon, but then
Yeah.
every other backfield is like a 2 or 3 rotation.
It's a smarter way to run your team, and that's what we've been saying
really
for the
is.
last like 6 months. How little value the running back position has because you can't even be the only one anymore. Emmitt Smith will never ever have his records even touched because no one will ever get as much work as he was capable of getting in a year.
Almost wore his jersey. What are you guys picking up in the first round in fantasy? Are you going running back or wide receiver first, based off what we
So
just said?
it's
It
really
all
tough,
depends
man.
on where I'm drafting. Like if we're
It's-
being
I feel
honest.
that. And
in
who
the
falls.
past 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said if you take anything besides a running back, you're an idiot. Like, what are you
Can't
thinking?
use that.
But now it's not like that, man. A lot of these running backs, they're likely to get hurt. Like if you're taking one of the best guys, then they're going to get 300 carries, and if they go down in week 16, you're done. So I think that we have to look at just like overall value. If I was taking one of the first 2 or 3 players, probably going to go running back. If I'm taking like the 3rd through the 7th, probably going receiver. Like there's only maybe 4 running backs I even want in the first round. And honestly, Travis Kelce is absolutely someone I'm taking around 7 or 8. Like if he's there, he's gone. Like you have to take him. He's a receiver that you get to play at that tight end.
Yeah, and not it's his target share. Like the dude's getting he minimum 8 to 10 targets a game minimum.
And who did Kansas City add to take away some of his targets? Nobody. Nobody's taking away his. Like, so I think that that's kind of how my first round is looking. I'm gonna go running back early, going receiver in the mid. There's a couple running backs at the back half, like Josh Jacobs, that I would love to get that are probably going to be there around 10.
And I say that though, but like every time I've gone running back early, every single time it's bit me in the ass. Anytime I have a running back pop off for me, it's a dude that I snatched up in the 3rd or 4th round or off the waiver wire, and he came on late in the season. Like for me, even in fantasy, the running back position starting to lose its value unless you've got a McCaffrey or an Austin Eckler, like somebody who is just as effective in the passing game because they're getting 6 to 7 targets a game just on dump offs.
And with McCaffrey, if he goes down like he did the last 2 seasons, and you take him at number 1 through 3, any of those picks, I mean, you've lost such a big chunk of value on your team. That's what's hard. That's where I've seen a lot of people taking like Justin Jefferson at number 1 overall.
Everyone is.
Jamar Chase, yeah. And I don't agree with that necessarily. I still think C-Mac will be a safer choice at 1, or Austin Eckler. Those are my 2 that I really want early because of exactly what you just said. They receive the ball so much, they get so much extra value.
That's actually a hot take, bro.
Hot take.
That I don't want Justin Jefferson at 1.
Yeah, everyone's taking him at 101. And if it's not
Yeah.
him, it's Jamar Chase, and then it's C-Mac and Eichler. But like, it's 101 and 102 is JJ and Chase.
It's just because of how I value the positions. I think that there's so many receivers, and none of them are going to be capable of being JJ or Jamar Chase. But like Jackson Smith and Jigba could absolutely be Jamar Chase 2.0 and have a phenomenal rookie season. Like that's absolutely likely to happen. I'm really buying into what his college coach said, that he's had Chris Olave, he's had Garrett Wilson, and then he had Terry McLaurin all under him, and he said that Jackson Smith and Jigba was the best receiver of all of them, of every single one of them.
All
He
of
was the
them.
best
He left
of
out
all of
Marvin
them.
Harrison. Left out Marvin Harrison. Jr.
Yes. Now next year we're gonna get
Yeah.
to see what a real receiver looks like. The
Yeah.
whole position's getting tipped upside down, but
He better just take a knee next year and not even fucking play.
hey,
Like we already know what he's capable of.
exactly. Last two players, DK Metcalf and Noah Fant. I think that we can probably cover them both really quickly. We've said so much
I
about
mean,
them
you're
already.
talking about some mountain men.
DK,
right there.
I not taking him in the first round, but if you snatch him up in the second round, I'm not gonna say anything.
I mean, he gets you
It makes
tutties.
sense. He's the number one wide receiver on a team to where 141 targets last year, gave you 17 games, missed one regular season game.
That's
That's
huge.
what you like to see.
People don't talk about that. With how fit he is not going to get hurt. His hamstrings are fucking fine because he works them. Like he is so.
He's the new age Terrell Owens.
Bro,
Yep,
that's a good
I like
call.
that a lot.
He's
like that a
Debo, but like 2 inches taller.
Now, Noah Fant was pretty average, actually very below average. 18th ranked in tight ends, 16th in receiving, 18th in yards, and 13th in touchdowns of tight ends. So Noah Fant, with how good everybody else did on the Seattle Seahawks last year, looks like trash. He looks like he's not even capable.
There's a lot of mouths to feed.
I could have done better for him.
He's not getting his. I love that. He's not getting his target share. He's not getting targets. He's not getting what he needs to. That's on him. Like, there's a lot of mouths to feed, but there's plenty of teams that are going to get their guy going. I think the Ravens are a good example of, like, what they're going to be capable of this year, keeping Mark Andrews happy, and then also keeping Rashad Bateman, and then at least one of their other receivers.
Their new boy.
That's who I think too. I don't know if it's going to be Odell, but we'll see.
No,
I think
Odell's definitely
a
taken
pretty-
apart. You gotta tune into the YouTube footage they're putting out. The Ravens, man, they love Odell. Odell's
Okay.
like their saving grace, you know.
That's dope. That's good because it's going to help Rashad Bateman so much.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
he was so
it's elevating
Flowers.
all of those receivers.
Zay Flowers.
Zay
coming up.
Flowers, and he's looking so swole. You guys mentioned it, but like he does really look swole.
When
now.
I was doing my fantasy rankings last night, easily wide receiver was my favorite one to rank.
Oh my god, yeah.
Just because
Yes.
there's like looking at it, I'm pretty sure I made a list of 65 or 70, and I could have kept going. I just stopped myself because I was like, "There's no point in me going this far. Like I've probably already gone too far." Like, yeah, there's so many like optimal wide receivers in this draft, and
compared to running back, it's crazy the difference, the disparity. And that's kind of what I mean, Austin, about why in the first two rounds I still want to take a running back. I could get fucked
If you
right?
can get your hands on one of those top 10.
Exactly. I need to get two of them. And then I can just take whatever receivers are left because Garrett Wilson's going to fall to the third. Like, there's so many people that are going to fall to the third round
Barely.
and fourth round and fifth round. Like, Chris Godwin used to be my guy to go for. This year, he's not in. He's got either
You'll
Kyle
find him in the
Trask or Baker
Baker.
Mayfield throwing him the ball. And it's not going to be him.
Baker let
all
it
right,
fly
so
though.
let's move on. Let's move on to the Rams.
Baker will
Let's start
let it
talking
fly.
about players that are relevant. Christian McCaffrey. We talked about him a little bit, but I want to.
Wait,
So
you said the Rams, and then you said Christian McCaffrey.
damn, did
So,
I? Yeah, I meant Matt. I meant
no-
Matt Stafford.
Yeah, let's go to the Rams. I want to save the 49ers for last. Give that little cherry at the end.
So Matt Stafford was 24th in passing, 29th in attempts, second in completion percentage, which blew my mind. I had no idea, and 31st in touchdowns. Now we know that Matt Stafford was hurt. We know that
He only
had a
played
bad,
9 games.
and he only played 9 games. So that's most of this.
His
Where do you-
touchdown to interception ratio is the most alarming one there. 10
Okay.
touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like, that's the
Yeah.
most alarming stat. The completion percentage, great. The yards, as far as how many games he played, not bad at all. Yards per game, 231. So, I mean, if you're looking
that's
at
good.
Geno averaged 251 for yards per game. So he's not far off of somebody that we were just talking about as, you know, a top 7, top 12 quarterback. So it was the injuries for him. Injuries
Yeah.
absolutely derailed him and Cup, and the Rams just shut it down for the season.
And if y'all
I have
have
him-
if y'all have a good memory bank, you know Stafford he plays through injuries usually. So like he's
Exactly.
a tough motherfucker. So
I have him as quarterback 21,
Ooh,
just below like Anthony
disrespect.
Richardson, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff. I think that as far as fantasy goes, he's going to be my Phillip Rivers. And for those that used Phillip Rivers for what he is, he was the guy that you could take in literally the last pick because no one ever wanted him, but he was always going to be a top 8, top 10 quarterback. He
He'll
was
get you
always going to
17,
put up 20
18
points. Thank
Yeah.
you. So that's
I
Matt
have
Stafford.
him ranked 20th on mine. So you had him 21.
Bro,
Yeah.
y'all are
Yeah,
so
and
disrespectful.
like you said, he's the guy to where for me, he's who Tannehill was like 3-4 years ago. Like if you just bail on taking a quarterback early, you know you can wait until like the 10th or 12th round and snatch up Stafford because there's so many of these young dudes coming up. He's gonna get passed up because of the season he just had. And if he's
And all
healthy,
the
he absolutely can have another top 10, top 5 season.
And
As
that's
long as
Exactly.
Cooper Kupp stays healthy for him as well.
and that's where I'm ranking them just based off if they're healthy. I got him at number 11. Like the man deserves it. He's the no look king, and he's got Cooper Kupp working with him. I mean, like that's
I
just
mean,
a
you
great
don't
duo.
get extra fantasy points for no look passing. It's not NFL
No,
straight.
but it's just
that's interesting. We can
No.
look into that one.
it just helps him out in the game. Nobody knows where the fuck he's throwing the ball. He's crazy with it.
So Cam Akers, horrible season. But I wanted to preface this with the end of the season, whenever he was actually over his Achilles injury, he actually did look kind of solid for like one game.
Hey, 4.2 yards average per carry, 7 touchdowns, 15 games
That
played. Like,
average,
not great, but it's not trash now.
Before you move on,
It's not. It's
4.2
not
yards
trash.
average is still 38th among running backs. Not in the league, among running backs, he averaged 38th in yards per average. So 4.2 is not getting it done.
If you give him the ball 3 straight times, he's getting you a first down. Like,
And you can do that with the other 37 running backs ahead of him too.
Running back positions devalued, and you can get look.
Now
All these guys are averaging 4 yards a carry. That's why it's devalued.
I didn't take into account for the running back stats that we're talking about anything receiving. It's purely rushing. It's so like whenever we talk about players like Austin Eckler and like the receiving backs, they're gonna look like they have less value. But as a rusher, Cam Akers was 27th, yards was 29th, the average was 38th, and touchdowns was 15th. The fact that he was 15th in touchdowns with so few games played, and the fact that he was hurt with the Achilles, you're going to get him for a steal. This is a guy that you're going to get after all the other running backs are gone, and he's going to be a starter for his team. So I think that there is going to be value there. You just have to be really cautious and make sure that you've already filled up your stock before you get to Cam. If this guy is going to start for you in the first 5 weeks, you're not looking good.
You got to remember his fumbling problem. Just take that into
big
account.
last year. Yeah.
Like, man cannot hold on to the rock. So unless he fix that, I can't trust him. And once you do that type of thing, it sticks with me. Like, I cannot.
I'm sitting here saying, don't disrespect him. Don't do this. I ranked 50 running backs, and he did not make my list.
What the fudge?
Yes, disrespect is what he deserves.
Hey, I'd have put him at 51 behind Gus Edwards, but I love Gus Bus, so I had to stick with him.
Yeah.
Damn, I was only
Damn.
doing
Oh
like 30.
God, I'm sorry, Cam.
So next we've got Seabiscuit, the only receiver to win the Triple Crown in like the past 150 years. Cooper Kupp.
Wait, is he Seabiscuit because he's like a thoroughbred,
'Cause he won the
or is
Triple
he
Crown.
Seabiscuit because he's white and could be Tobey Maguire?
Both.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
No, I was just because of the horse thing, Triple Crown. You know, trying to.
If you white, you Ben Affleck.
It's great. Now Cooper was 7th in as receiver, 25th in yards. 25th in receptions, 37th in yards, and 20th in touchdowns. The reason that he's ranked 7th is because of his statistics. Like if he's open and the ball's thrown to him properly, he catches the ball. That's why they have him ranked so high, even though his stats were so bad. He's going to be one of the best receivers in football if Matt Stafford's healthy.
Top 5.
I have him ranked 3rd.
I was going to say a lot of people
I
have him 3.
disrespected Stafford down at 20, but Stafford by himself, yeah, probably down there for me. But Kupp, because of the dude literally getting 10 to 12 targets a game, and he catches 90% of his targets,
Yep.
he's going to be at the top of my list if he's healthy. And you figure they shut him down for a reason. This is their last season of let's get everything we've got with, Stafford and Kupp. They're both pushing 32, 33 at this point.
He's got some.
So
of the best.
NFL years, you're becoming grandpa.
I don't know about 32, 33. I want to say he's probably like 31. Like last year,
I say that as a 32-year-old. Like,
yeah,
I know damn sure. I'm not
as fast as
around.
I used to be.
He's got the best route separation in the league.
I went and played 9 holes of golf earlier. I'm exhausted.
Cooper Kupp is the best receiver in football right now. Still, I think that ability to catch the ball, to separate, the route tree that he has, he's the best receiver in football still.
Behind Devontae Adams.
You're right. I mean, you're right.
He wasn't injured last year. It's just the quarterback he's dealing with this year compared to what Cooper Kupp has to offer.
Now, Jimmy G is going to be able to buy into that system
on my list
because
of
the quarterback, yeah,
because of Jimmy G.
Hell yeah.
What's up with Jimmy G? Is he hurt? I thought because isn't he not starting
something with his ankle? Failed a physical.
He's got a big.
I tried to tell y'all. I tried to preach it.
So,
ranked
last player for the Rams, Tyler Higbee, 5th in receptions, 11th in yards, and 17th in touchdowns. But they ranked him.
That's someone who eats.
And tight ends. His big issue is touchdowns. 17th in touchdowns is not good for tight ends. Because he only had 3 or 4.
Snatching all of them.
It was partially because of Matt Stafford. It's partially because
only
Tyler Higbee
36.5 yards per game.
He doesn't get touchdowns, bro. He gets catches in the fourth quarter, and he's there, and he's a good
safety
outlet,
blanket, but
he doesn't get touchdowns.
He does a lot of blocking, and
that's all he is. He's good for about 3 to 4 catches a game for about 8 to 10 yards, and he's great for prop betting. You bet him at 25 plus yards at minus 120, you're golden every time. Shout out to a fan with the stats in the chat. Cooper Kupp just turned 30.
Perfect. That's what I'm saying. DeAndre Hopkins is old as fuck and on his way out. He's 32. Cooper Kupp's fine. All right? He's 30. I think Higbee's my solid, who I want as my backup tight end. I don't love taking backup tight ends, but if I can take a mid-tier tight end and then have him as my backup, I'm very happy.
He's a great streaming tight end.
Exactly. If my mid-tier guy that I'm reaching for shits the bed and he doesn't work out, then at least Higbee's going to be solid. That's all he's going to be, but he'll at least be solid.
He looks like a Walmart Mark Andrews type deal,
Yeah.
He's solid. He's solid.
Kmart Dallas Goedert.
There you go. He's going to get you what you want.
Yeah.
So
There
if
you
we're
go.
gonna do the Niners last, then unfortunately we do have to talk about the Cardinals.
We've
If
got to
anybody
talk
wants
about the
to,
Cardinals.
if you guys want to leave, come
Should've.
back in 5 minutes. We'll be
We should have
done.
talked
No,
about them
Talk
bro,
first
I'm
about it
telling
because
you,
then.
they're
I'm
gonna be
all
last.
in on the Cardinals this season.
Because of the value they're gonna have. I hear you.
Absolute tank job. The offseason
Yes.
they're set to have next year. Like, if I'm starting a Madden franchise and I'm trying to rebuild a team and everything, the Cardinals just got new jerseys. You've got that fresh look on the video game. The game's about to drop in about a month for you. You know, no hashtag no ads here. And then so you've got that. Then you've got all the picks they're set to have next year, and they're going to have the Texans pick, and the Texans are going to be terrible. So, I'm all in on the Cardinals. Just bright future looking ahead. This year, you're just going to take it up the rear.
Why is everyone counting the Texans out, man? I
The
think they
Texans
got a
aren't going to be
top
very
10
good.
quarterback.
That's unfortunately they just don't have enough weapons. But hey, we're going to dive into that one next week.
So,
Hashtag tease.
so based off of what you're saying, Marquise Brown is going to be one of the best players to take, right? Because in the fourth quarter, they're just going to feed him the ball a bunch whenever they're down by 3 touchdowns so that they can get that one touchdown. Hey, guys, if we can just get one, then everyone will stop saying we suck. So is that what you're saying? Because I loved Tyler Boyd before the Cincinnati Bengals were good because he would get 15 fantasy points in the fourth quarter every week. That's who he was.
Yeah, he was great in blowouts. It was awesome.
They were always losing, and because they were always losing, they would just throw him the ball 7 times in a row on the last drive, give him a touchdown, and there we go. Let's go home. We got enough points from Tyler Boyd. So I could see Marquise Brown being that. Greg Dortch, I don't know, really. Marquise Brown was 91st.
They got little receivers.
Yeah. They got Rondale Moore, too.
Little.
And you just mentioned Greg Dortch. Let me put it. Greg Dortch played 16 games. Rondale Moore played 8.
Yeah.
Dortch had 64 targets. Rondale had 56. Dortch had 52 receptions. Rondale had 41. Dortch averaged 9 yards a catch. Rondale 10. But Rondale in his 8 games averaged 51.8 yards per game, good for second on the team, whereas Dortch averaged 29.2. So where Dortch, he was like a little fantasy darling every now and then. If Rondale is able to have a full healthy season, now granted he won't have Kyler for most of the season, but
Really?
Rondale Moore, he was having a solid year. It was just he couldn't stay on the field.
Where are you guys ranking Zach Ertz? Because with like that kind of scenario that the Cardinals are dealing with, I think that he's a good safety blanket to just feed, and he just racks up.
So I
that
ranked
with
20
how-
tight ends. I did not rank Zach Ertz or Trey McBride, and I would rank Trey McBride over Ertz because I think the young buck's going to get the nod this year as long as he's coming healthy out of camp.
I mean, that's
So
what
I've
you
been
do if
hearing-
you're tanking. Just feed him and see what he's capable of.
I've been hearing that they trade Zach Ertz to the Eagles, that the Eagles see value because they
Back
have nobody
into it.
behind Goddard, and
my
that they
God.
really want to buy into winning a freaking Super Bowl. So they're going to bring Zach back. So
Bring him back.
If
That'd be awesome.
If something like that happened, I would love to have Zach Ertz as even with Goddard being there, I think that he's still going to have value. AJ Brown, there's a lot of people to feed there at that point, but I still think that he would be worth it to have on your roster.
Not a number one. Definitely not a number one,
not
though.
at all.
Yeah.
But to have as a backup, if Goddard ever went down, then
Yeah.
Ertz is all of a sudden Goddard. You're just getting top 3 tight end value from a guy you took in the last round.
But Cards they're punting on the season. I mean, they're as
They
soon
did
as your
bad
quarterback
last year,
goes
man.
out like that and you've got the resources next year, you know what? Take your rest, get healthy. We'll come back next year. We're going to go ahead and we may even try to get rid of Kyler so that way we can just draft Caleb Williams and
That would
Marvin
be the
Harrison
smartest
Jr. at the
choice.
top of the draft next year.
Ever. That'd be
Now,
the best
last year-
decision ever. That right there.
Last year, before the season started, James Conner was viewed as a top running back because of the year that he had before, where he had 14 or 12 touchdowns. And basically every time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. This past year, fell off the fucking cliff, man. 36th in running, 30th in yards, 36th in yards per average, so he was at least a little bit better than Cam Akers.
4.3,
And
three times
15,
first down,
15
baby.
touchdowns. So I think that running back position I'm staying away from. Tight end position, Zach Ertz, Austin's right. There's some value in there, especially because of how late you're going to get him. And then maybe Marquise Brown, but even Rondale Moore scares the shit out of me. Like, Marquise is the only one I would even want, and that's only because I think that they actually feed him. They give him 10 or 12 targets a game, and that will be enough to have value.
And remember, just go back and remember that he had some butterfingers on the Ravens. So just know that could happen. That he could just have, a shitty year, and it could be because they're tanking. It could be both of them playing into each other. I don't know. Just watch out.
My whole thing is like you look at the main top 3 receivers we named with Dortch, Rondale Moore, and Marquise Brown. Now, granted, they all missed games. Marquise Brown only played 12, Rondale only played 8, but between the 3 of them, only 6 touchdowns were scored. Like they don't have the touchdown threat on the outside.
Not at all.
And
so
who's the
that's
one
where you're
DeAndre
hoping.
Hopkins.
It
was supposed to be a DeAndre Hopkins, but
exactly.
He's gone.
So I mean, outside of the your bigger targets and your tight ends, it's just who you going to. So yeah, the Cardinals. I mean, there's gonna be some value in their players throughout the season, depending on especially where they fall in the draft for you. It's just I wouldn't take any of them.
Now, I know we're not talking about the teams and their breakdowns too much, but I think that the team we're about to cover last is going to be the team that wins the division. I think that Seattle and Los Angeles aren't going to be able to give them a run. The 49ers look like the best dynasty in football right now. Like, they look like they're going to be set up to be the most successful for the longest amount of time. Because it doesn't matter who their players are.
It doesn't matter who their quarterback is.
It doesn't matter anything.
I think it
they
does.
have 3 quarterbacks right now. Austin, they have 3 quarterbacks.
Their defense matters. If you give Kyle Shanahan a top 7 defense, he'll do whatever he needs to with his offense to move the ball and put points on the board.
Yep.
Like
they run it so well.
I think it was The Athletic. Again, hashtag no ads here, but The Athletic put out like a whole profile on that Shanahan, like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, like all these guys, that coaching style, that coaching tree, like that style of offense to where players, like you said, are virtually interchangeable as long as they have their player types to mold to their system. I can figure out something to do with you. Like, and honestly, all of those dudes too, they're all kind of psychopaths where they kind of thrive on that to where they kind of prefer not having like the one elite guy necessarily because it allows them to just use all of these chess pieces because, you have 3-4 mouths to feed. And instead of having one mouth that you're having to feed more, you're able to spread it out and then just keep all defenses on their toes. That's where, like you said, you give Kyle Shanahan a top 7 defense, and he's going to probably win his division.
You roll Brock Purdy out there week 1 and he gets smothered. What are they going to do?
They're going to roll out Trey Lance was worth all the draft capital.
Are they going to roll him out next in week 2? Like, it's just a scenario that could happen where it goes down and down.
I don't think Purdy comes out week 1.
I'm just saying it's not like a scenario that I'm like I feel comfortable with the 49ers saying that they're going to be a top tier team because I don't know what
Sam Darnold. I'm telling you, Sam Darnold will have a comeback season under Shanahan, at least a Brock Purdy-esque style season. Purdy didn't light it up, but he was solid.
If you had Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, or Jimmy Garoppolo, which one are you choosing?
I'll take those 3.
Okay.
And I'd be rolling out Trey Lance.
Jimmy Garoppolo has been taking the 49ers basically to the NFC Championship game for the last 3 years. So, like, with Jimmy Garoppolo, he was capable of having all of that. We're back in the offseason, so we forgot how amazing Brock Purdy looked last year, and it had nothing to do with his talent or arm talent. It had nothing to do with Brock Purdy. It had to do with the system that he was in, how easy it was to do what they were asking him to do. I think that it's going to be easy again. They still have everything that they had before. George Kittle makes his life easy. Debo Samuel makes his life easy. Brandon
Debo
Ayuk,
had an off year.
Debo was hurt a lot. And
11,
now whenever Debo was healthy,
only 13 games played, but
Yeah.
11.3 yards of reception. My issue, only 5 total touchdowns, 2 in the air, 3 on the ground. Average 5.5 yards per carry, though. Like, Debo as a running back is still legit. And now though, I wonder how much they dial back on that to where he was battling those injuries last year. Like, I want to know. And for me, yeah, it's hard not to implement, those end arounds and things like that, those shovel passes, just
I don't
quick
think
burst.
they pull back at all. I think that they keep full throttle because that's where he has value. You can't stop him from doing those things. Now, a stat that I heard today that was really interesting is that in all of the games that Ayuk and Debo played together, Debo was a far superior fantasy option. He always had more targets, more yards, more catches, more touchdowns, more everything. The only reason Ayuk surpassed Debo was because he played more games. If for all those games that Ayuk was in and Debo was out, Ayuk popped off. And that's why he looks like he had so much value last year. So I think that he's a bit of a trap. I'm still high on Debo, and
He's
I'm
also
not
a
as much
really
on
young.
Ayuk.
He's also a really young receiver, like coming into his prime though.
Him
Like
and Debo were
people
drafted the
overlook
same
him
year.
because of Debo, though. You know what I'm saying though? Like
They
people
were
don't look
drafted
at
the
him
same
because
year,
of
though.
Debo. I
Like
get that,
they're
but
the
like
same
whenever
as
you
far as
see
like
Brandon
age.
Ayuk playing and catching the ball and running, he looks like one of those top tier elite receivers
He
in the
looks
league.
almost like a T. Higgins. Like I
Yeah,
think that he's kind
exactly.
of
A
at that
little
level.
bit
Like
shorter,
Ayuk
right
is
but
showing the progression you want to see out of him based on where
absolutely,
he was drafted for them.
because he was like a fourth or fifth rounder. Debo was a second. He was very early in the draft, and then they
Yeah, I
got
want to
Ayuk
say,
quite a
yeah,
bit later.
Ayuk was about 4th or 5th. I want to say you're right there. And yeah, like I said, he had a underrated solid season last year. 13 yards a catch, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. So you figure he played 4 more games than Debo, so 22 more receptions. Good.
where are you guys
The yards are
ranking
going to be a way
Ayuk?
different. Like I said, my thing with him is Ayuk became a lot more of a touchdown target last year for whoever was at quarterback. Now Kittle played 15 games and put up 11 touchdowns. So
He's
Kittle,
a touchdown machine.
yeah, he's
Because the
George Kittle. He's a top
quarterback,
5 fantasy tight end every year of his career.
the quarterbacks that play for this team need a safety blanket. They're not comfortable throwing down the field enough.
So to answer your question, Austin, I have DJ Moore around 20, and then I've got Debo, Jerry Judy, Mike Williams, and then Brandon Ayuk. So, and then I've got all of those players above Keenan Allen.
Damn.
See, I've
Yeah,
got
that's
Ayuk
disrespected,
right
ranked at
I think
30.
Keenan's going to fall off again. I said it last year, and I
I
think that
think
I'm
he
going to
does
double
better than
down
Mike
on it.
Williams.
I've
I
got
think
Keenan
Mike
at
Williams
16.
actually takes past him.
See, I've got Keenan at 16 and Mike Williams at 31.
And where do you have the rookie?
Quentin, I have at
Because I'm putting Quentin right before
46.
Mike Williams. So
Like, I think they're still going to go in their same
just
pecking order, at
health-wise.
least for this season. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Quentin Johnson cut into Mike Williams. He's going to cut in Mike Williams more than he will Keenan Allen because Keenan Allen is developing more to that Larry Fitzgerald big slot receiver role.
he
So
can
I'm
get
not worried
separation no
about
matter
Keenan
what.
Allen's stats. That's why I still have Keenan Allen at 16. Like, he's still a, second, third round wide receiver for you in fantasy. He's still going to put up numbers for you as long as he's on the field. He's going to get 8 to 10 targets every game because Justin Herbert just loves him, respects him. He's the vet that's been there forever. And so I don't see that changing this year. Mike Williams, that's why I'm lower on him than most people are because of Quentin Johnson coming in.
Exactly.
I want to see Quentin Johnson. Watching his film, I think that he's actually very similar to Mike Williams, and that like his vertical and his like high point ability is kind of where his skill is. He's not a great route runner.
He's actually a great hybrid of the two, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
I want to see his route running be elite at the NFL level, and then I know he's going to have a better career than Mike Williams. But if he's just a Williams clone, then I think Mike Williams is at least developed to the point of being better right away.
He is
And
faster.
I think yeah, well, he's also 4 or 5 years, later coming into the league. Receivers are faster now, and that's not to say that Mike Williams isn't that fucking fast. They don't run 40s anymore.
It would be nice if they would run a 40 every season just to see like who's still got that juice.
That
right?
nobody
Who's the
will though
fastest?
because of the odds of like popping a hamstring on that. Just
For
not
Pop
even
it-
that.
Hey,
but
pop it now before the
how
season
often
starts.
are you sprinting 40 yards in a straight line untouched? Like that's my thing. Like yes, it gives you an idea of their top speed, but like I always look at the 3-cone and the 10-yard and the 20-yard splits before I look at anything because those are where the athleticism takes factor. I mean,
Exactly.
you've got a USA Olympic track guy in Devin Allen that plays for the Eagles and basically sits on their practice squad. But he's one of the fastest dudes in America. Straight line speed. Like that's my thing. It's awesome if you've got it, especially if you know you're the size of Quentin Johnson or DK Metcalf or Calvin Johnson, because that just adds to what you're bringing to the table. But you see with these guys like Kelvin Benjamin they've got the size, but they're slower than molasses. So what do you, if you can't block, you're not a tight end. And if you can't
That's a
run
great
for me,
callback.
you're not a wide receiver.
So
Kelvin Benjamin,
like that's
great
my
callback.
problem.
That guy him and Devin Funchess both should have just played tight end, and their careers would have been so much better off because they were never going to be receivers. They're not going to be able to play the X because they don't have the speed to get open in breaks.
No.
So based off what I'm hearing, you guys aren't valuing Quentin Johnson like in fantasy late in drafts, like
I have him 46.
because he's one of those players I'm picking
Like
up as
if you're
soon
needing
as
to
I
fill
can for the
with
depth.
wide
Exactly.
receiver, I'll
Like,
take him.
He's someone I'm willing to take a risk on because I know the injury aspects with
But
both
if I got
receivers
my
for the
first
Chargers.
wide receivers in my first couple flex spots, like I
Thank
haven't filled
you.
those, that I'm not taking them.
No, I get
because
that,
those are
but
guys
he's
who-
definitely one of the first
he's
people.
he's a lottery ticket. If he
Yeah.
explodes, you fucking hit it. You're probably gonna make your way to the playoffs.
I would much rather have Jackson Smith and Jigba.
And that's the question
Jordan
I was
Addison.
trying to ask.
And then honestly, probably the guy for the Chiefs too. I can't remember his name, but they took a receiver this year. He's probably going to be someone I'm looking at.
See, now like that's crazy that like we can't even name that player, but like Quentin
I don't
Johnson was the
remember his
first
name.
receiver off the board. We know Justin
Yeah.
Herbert's throwing him the ball. We know Keenan Allen gets hurt. We know fucking Mike Williams gets hurt. This
Joshua
dude,
Palmer
I'm
was
so
supposed
high
to
on this
be
dude because
so
his
good
talent
last
is.
year.
You're talking about a Julio Jones type
See,
receiver
I've got
going
Jordan
to the
Addison
Chargers.
is
Like,
my top ranked rookie, and I've got
Jordan
him
Addison.
at 37. And
I'm high
my
on
thing
him
with
too.
him is Adam Thielen has a bunch of shit that needs replaced. So because of that, I don't know if KJ Osborne steps up and immediately just fills that role. And Jordan Addison, Pittsburgh, USC, like he's one of the top receivers of the last 3 years in and out and coming out of college. So for me, that he's my top ranked rookie. And I mean, I believe I have him.
who do you
I
compare
have
him
him
to?
ranked higher than KJ Osborne. I have
Who do you
KJ
comp him
Osborne at
to?
61.
Who do you comp him to in the NFL? I say Garrett Wilson. That's who he looks just like to me.
That's
Jordan
not a bad
Addison.
call.
Jordan Addison looks just like Garrett Wilson. His route running, the way he catches the balls, like the way he runs,
Not as fast.
separates.
So but I do see with like body type. Yeah, I definitely get you there. Like, but he's not as fast, so I would give you I'd give him more Calvin Ridley.
Still got those hands. Yeah, but Calvin Ridley's kind of like Garrett Wilson to me. Like those are three receivers are all the same.
So I like the way Justin put that because Calvin Ridley isn't a speed guy. Garrett Wilson is. Like Garrett Wilson has top end speed. Calvin Ridley won with good hands and like great route running. He was putting on a clinic in route running. That's why he got so many touchdowns is because he would do those little like out corner post into the end of the end zone, and he would just be wide open every freaking time.
I think you
So I
guys
think
aren't.
that
I
Jordan,
think you're seeing Garrett Wilson as like a Justin Jefferson, but he is the route running machine guy. Like he's
I mean,
gets
Justin
separation.
Jefferson's
He's
a route
quick.
running
Garrett
machine.
Wilson's a top 10
I feel
fantasy
you, but
receiver for me this year with Aaron Rodgers coming in.
no, I feel that. But I'm saying like Justin Jefferson. When I say him, it's like more over the top. Like he's a field stretcher type. Garrett Wilson,
That's
I
who
think,
Garrett
is
Wilson
like
is.
going across the field, like,
So
and then he'll
Garrett
do
Wilson's
work after.
Best game last year, he had like two massive, massive plays. And that's part of what it is for me. In my brain, with the quarterbacks he had last year, the only way he could even have value was if he was able to stretch the field. As
He
far as
was
like
getting
an every
fed.
week. He was, but he wasn't like a top 15 guy. He is going to be now, but he
Now,
wasn't
towards
last
the
year.
end of the year, he was seeing to where he was getting, 7, 8, 9 targets a game. He was becoming more of that guy. That's when Elijah Moore started getting mad and wanting
Yep.
out and stuff
Yep.
because Garrett Wilson
Where
was
is
coming
he
in
with?
and just taking over.
Is he with the
Cleveland.
Bears now? Cleveland?
Cleveland.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Browns.
That's right. Claypool's with the Bears.
Yeah, correct. So
last player, Christian McCaffrey. We haven't talked about him, so let's do it. 20th in the run, 6th in yards, rushing yards, 19th in yards per average, and 10th in touchdowns. A lot of that has to do with the fact that none of this is receiving. If we put up the receiving numbers, then he would show as the best running back in football because that's what he is.
And he's gonna be a
65
great-
targets in 11 games, 52 catches, 8.9 yards a catch, and 4 touchdowns receiving. Like, that's my thing. In 11 games, he's getting 5 receptions minimum a game. So you're looking at 50 yards receiving a game for him on top of the 70 to 80 yards rushing that he was getting. And that was coming into the 49ers completely unknown of the system, unaware of what's going on essentially.
I thought he was going to
get
a step down. I thought that whenever he was with Carolina,
he stayed healthy.
That which was crazy. That they gave him the ball so often that's why he had value. And with less carries and less targets, he was better with the 49ers. He did more with his looks because there was more space for him to do what he needed
to.
Where's
that 4.7 yards per carry? Where's that rank at in your yards
19th.
per carry? 19th. So see, that's what I'm saying. Yards per carry on that yards per carry you're looking at. Is there like a minimum, like certain amount of carries that gives them those rankings though? Because you may have some dudes that are like they ran 2 times and broke it off for 30 yards apiece.
So like number 1 in yards per carry. So I do the minimum of 349 rushing attempts for them to even show up on the list. So the best average last year was Breece Hall. He had 5.8 yards a carry at 463 yards, 80 attempts. But he had at least 349 snaps on the year. That's why he even shows up. Khalil Herbert, 5.7. DeAndre Swift, 5.5. J.K. Dobbins, 5.5. James Cook, 5.3. Aaron Jones, 5.3. Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne, Isaiah Pacheco, Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb, and that's the top 10.
James Cook.
Yeah. So, again, it's just the average, right? I think that it gives a good like idea of kind of like what's going on, but it's not everything. And we're currently at, yeah, that is correct. Oh.
I heard you say, "Oh no, what happened?"
I looked at the message that you just sent me, which took that message and put it on the stream. So there, you guys get to see behind the scenes a little bit right there. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be the best running back in football. I love Austin Eckler. He's not as good of a player, and he's not going to get as many looks. He doesn't have as good of a situation, and he's still going to be right there with Christian McCaffrey as the number 2. But Christian McCaffrey is the number 1. If he's available, if he shows up on your draft board, then you draft him. That's the way I see it.
Agreed.
Solid take.
Especially he showed I stay away from him because of his health. But he showed me last season he was able to stay healthy, and you're hoping Elijah Mitchell comes back. He's, able to stay healthy to help take that load off Christian in the beginning of the year. Yep. And so if you're allowing me to get a healthy Christian McCaffrey, yeah, I'll probably take him high. But like I said, I'm terrified of taking a wide receiver or a running back that high anymore. So I honestly, give me like pick 5 or later and I'm fine because that takes all my stress out.
I'm so with you. I hate the top 4 picks, but if I'm there, then I'll take them. Like you got to just take it ball,
What's the most important position in football?
In football or in fantasy football?
In football.
The quarterback. Absolutely.
If you ain't got that solidified, I can't trust many players on that team. They're gonna fall in the ranking system because
you're saying knows? If they don't have a quarterback like on their NFL team that you don't like the players?
If they don't have one that they know is their guy, they're talking about 3 quarterbacks they're working with. Like that's too much in the air. I like the fact that I'd rather trust Geno in the Seattle Seahawks to win that division.
I like
right now
that you aren't all in on the 49ers. Now, I know that it's because they kicked you guys out of the playoffs last year, but I like
I'm haterade being drank.
I love the 49ers. I really do, but fuck, I cannot do it. I used to play quarterback. I know how important that role is to a team. You can't not go into a season not knowing who your guy is.
They know who their guy is. John Lynch said 3 months ago that Brock Purdy's our guy. We are not even looking at Trey Lance anymore. Brock Purdy, we took him in the last overall pick. Doesn't matter. He's our guy. So,
bro, quarterback taking the last pick. Yeah, let's run with him. Out of all the fucking players that come out of college, let's go with the last guy picked in the fucking draft.
I also have a hard time buying into players. The only reason I'm buying into Brock is not because of Brock. It's because of Kyle Shanahan, the offensive line, and the offense that the 49ers have, and their defense. Their team in general, it's the team built to be a dynasty. It's going to be great. They've lost 3 coaches, 3 major coaches over the last 3 years, and it doesn't matter.
They deserve their roles where they went.
They do. So it's been a little over an hour. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to go ahead and read those comments and comment back.
Subscribe down here.
That's right.
And then there's comments down here.
Right there.
For me, it's down here. For for Coach, you're going to do this. For Austin, you're doing this right here. So, down here, TulsiRoseTea.com. Go check that out.
Sip up, boys.
Not an official sponsor, but go support the family. Follow on the socials at ProFootballPod, at ProFootball_pod on Twitter. Austin at Austin_PFP. Coach at Coach_PFP. I'm Hulk at Hulk_PFP. And then next week what we got, the AFC South. Y'all want to do AFC South next week?
That sounds fun. We'll go back and forth. NFC, AFC, NFC, AFC, back and forth like that.
Switch it up.
Yeah, so AFC South for you guys next week. Any parting words for the fellas here?
Peace and love.
Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate y'all hanging out. We love you guys. Y'all have a great rest of your week. We'll check you next Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.